All right, many thanks for staying with us on your ultimate news and current affairs program on television. Like I told you in our opening, I said the rescue and the battle for the soul of our nation is critical and very, very crucial to every well-meaning Nigerian. And of course, this morning on the show, in our first segment, I have two guests that are here to join me to look at the state of the nation, of our country, and the way forward as we prepare to jump into the pools 25th of next month. From my immediate left is Comrade Ogbede Emmanuel. He's a president of Network of Civil Society of the Organization of Nigeria.
NOXIN.
All right, NOXIN, that's Benin chapter now, if I'm not mistaken.
Nigeria.
Nigeria as a whole, wow, that's a big one. Welcome to the show, Comrade Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers.
All right, and from my extreme left is Engineer Esosa Eyawe. He's a politician, and of course, he's also a public affairs analyst. Comrade Eyawe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's just quickly go straight to our discussion. Let me start with you, Comrade Emmanuel. Now, the elections is 25th of next month. From the body language of Mr. President, do you think or do you feel he's backing the candidacy of their presidential candidate? Because we've heard one or two statements from him that seems like he's not really campaigning per se for their presidential candidate. What's your take on that?
Okay, thank you very much. You see, in my own personal opinion, and in several fora, I have opined that two things. One, you cannot, nobody is very proud in one way or the other to associate or to join itself with what is perceived not to be okay with the general public.
Okay.
It's on two sides. I've said one first before that ordinarily no political strategist can separate or can dissociate the president of the country as it were now, President Muhammadu Buhari, and the presidential candidates of the ruling or progressive Congress. They are like Siamese twins politically that cannot be separated. Their achievements, their character, and their dispositions from the incubating stage since 2014, they came into merger. They share the same ideology. So for some people like us in Nigeria who are intellectuals, we cannot see any difference between Mr. President and their present presidential aspirants. But mind you, nobody wants to associate with failure. Nobody will be proud to associate with anything that has failed. Considering the position of the current administration, what Mr. President has experienced by himself, because he cried and he wept. He told Nigerians he wants to rule this country in spite of his age, in spite of his limitations, in terms of age and intellectual balance. Now he has seen the reality in his own. He will not wish Nigeria to have somebody in his generation, because the job of the chief executive officer or the commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is a tedious job that needs mental alertness, that needs strength and vigor, and that requires much from anyone. So I will not be surprised, and it is very clear that Mr. President don't wish Nigerians to have an old, or if you like, somebody in the advanced side to rule this country. Okay. Having said that, you will agree with me, in the past 8.5 years of Mr. President, he speaks in three major ways. Number one, he speaks with body language.
7.5.
Yes, Mr. President hardly come out to speak to Nigerians. He speaks with body languages. In other occasions, he's silent. Why in other occasions you hear the presidency, which means those that are around him, or the cabal, they speak for him. But largely 85% he speaks with body language. So with the body language of Mr. President, where he goes to campaign of his own party and he's telling Nigeria to vote their conscience, it is obviously obvious that Mr. President don't want to be associated or don't want to be seen as those who mislead Nigeria again in choosing what will not be in their best interest, presidentially, in quotes. And also, if you look at his actions, if you look at the actions of some of his very close allies, then you also discover that some of them who were even holding positions, some of them over in the north, some of them are relinquishing, some of them are very reluctant in participating.
Okay.
So with that, I will tell you crystal clear that Mr. President is not very comfortable.
All right, I'll come back to you, Comrade Okwudi. Let's quickly come to Engineer Ezosa. Now, the President has been sharing the power of the seat of power, of course, the topmost position in this country for about 7.5 years now. And from the ministerial scorecard we saw recently, they actually gave themselves a pass mark. But what is your take on this current administration and their achievements so far?
Yes, so far you agree with me that the citizens of the country are not happy with the outcome of this administration, this current administration, because the situation of the country is actually in a very critical position at the moment. We are in a recession. We just finished Christmas. You know how the Christmas went for a lot of people. People didn't feel the Christmas fever. We have high level of insecurity, high level of unemployment. We have situations that are so dire that inflation now, even coming to your studio, we had to factor in how much fuel we're going to buy and how we're going to go back. Giving themselves a pass mark, I think they are just being selfish. Good leadership entails getting the job done. You promise things that you tend to do, and when you get to the office, you deliver on them to your people and your electorate. But so far, from the first day the president came into power, the first few weeks, his choice of selections in ministers, I think it swayed into his own personal gain.
So you think the president or his administration has not delivered to the Nigerians?
Yes, they have not in any shape or form. All sectors are down. The education sector, people live by the drones. They have hijacked the Western countries. They've hijacked our doctors. They've hijacked our professors. And I think now they're even going into school teachers. So as a Nigerian, I would say the pass mark they clamor for is highly delusional.
Okay, the gap we have between essential commodities in 2015, Comrade Okwudi, the gap difference from 2015 and what we have now, there's a serious disparity. And to our next extent, the president is saying, well, we've done well. Even in his last recent campaign, he said we have done our best. And he was telling the people in the campaign ground, that you know that we have done our best. Which areas do you think they failed where the incoming president can take a leap from?
Well, you see, if you are looking at the economy situation, the standard of living of Nigerians, vis-a-vis the insecurity that has affected our production, agricultural production today, you will agree with me that there is nothing that is better off as it were today than where we are coming from 7 years back. Now, first of all, let's look at the agricultural sector. The inflation in terms of food, the rise of cost of food today is associated to the insecurity we found in the northern part of this country, where you will agree with me that majority of the food productions of Nigeria comes from. Now, if farmers cannot go to their farm, or they will have to resort to paying security fee to bandits or terrorist groups in order for them to access their farm, either to plant crops or to go to their farm and harvest the crops that have been planted, that is due for harvest, or even transport the ones that are already harvested to the city where they can be sold. If they have no security in order to achieve that, what that means is that the agricultural productions of this country has been reduced to a very drastic level where food insecurity becomes a major challenge. And when you have very few commodities in the market and you have a lot of looted funds, including printed funds in circulations, chasing the very few ones.
Let me take you back a little.
Yeah.
Looted fund and printed funds.
Yes, looted funds.
You need to expatiate on that.
Yes, looted funds. The funds that have been looted by the legislators and those in authorities, both national, at the national level, the both chambers, in the ruling party and all and the other parties, those funds have been looted. They find themselves in circulation. Those funds that have been printed, sometimes in the year, you will agree with me that it was crystal clear where a governor in this country accused the CBN and the Minister of Finance for printing funds. They denied, but when it became very obvious, it was admitted that they've been printing funds to pay salaries in this country. So those funds ordinarily has find their way illegally into the economy. Now you have too much funds in the circulation. You have too much money in the circulation, but few commodities. That results to inflation, high cost of commodities. So now our farmers are not producing, including the rice that you are proclaiming self-sufficiency. You ban the importation of rice into the country, whereas the northern borders are open, the southern borders are closed. We cannot import rice, yet you don't have sufficiency in rice production. What that means is that the few ones that is available, the price will skyrocket. And that is why we are seeing the bag of rice has skyrocketed up to more than 40,000, and even the celebration period, you have almost 50,000.
Are you saying to an extent when we had foreign rice finding their way into the country, it was far better? Is that what you're saying?
Now listen, when you are making policy, you have to plan for your policy. There is timing for policy. If I want to ban the importation of rice, I must make sure that I already have, to some extent, what is sufficient for the consumption of Nigeria. If I want to go into fish farming, I will first of all make my pond and make water available. I will not bring my fish when I don't have water and pour them inside ponds. They will die. So banning rice when you don't have self-sufficiency is like bringing fish into an empty pond when there's no water. So Nigerians have been drowning and Nigerians have been dying in hunger and starvation because of the wrong timing of that policy.
Okay.
Now, looking at that aspect of insecurity, you discover that insecurity has affected the standard of living and agricultural production of this country.
Okay.
Now, in spite of the billions and millions that have been spent in that insecurity, every day, sometimes you discover that even some of the northern states and even snowboarding into the southeastern states are still experiencing gross insecurity. Remember, the president promised us that he was going to end terrorism in 6 months. He never did. Remember, he promised us that the economy is going, a dollar is going to be equal to 1 naira. Remember, he promised us that fuel is going to be 45 naira. As at then we were buying 87. As I speak to you now, you must queue to even buy fuel at 295. And where you can't even see the fuel is not even available.
Back to you so
in all those grounds, you will agree with me that they have not fulfilled their promises.
Okay, now, Engineer Isosa,
Yeah.
now looking at the presidential candidates that we have presented to Nigerians for the forthcoming polls, do you think we have any that have the capacity, the willpower to change the face of this nation?
Yes, we have.
We don't need to mention names anyway.
Yes, we have 4 major candidates running for.
But we have others.
Yes, the major. That's why I said major.
Okay.
Between the 4, I think you can see and hear from yourself what happens in the media and all. that from my party, the Labour Party, is I think he's the youngest and he's the healthiest. And when it comes to policies, he has come out plain and simple, and even has a track record of things that he tends to do and things that he has done in the past. And it's very difficult for you to see a politician that says, go and verify. I won't call names,
but they said his policies when he was in government they were warehouse economics. That he was a warehouse economist.
You see, the problem that my brother here is saying, we've all said about the country, the problems of the country, the inflation. Right now, we even have, we borrow money to service loans. So we are going deep into the rabbit hole. My candidate, the presidential candidate, he's a prudent man. Even one of his opposition has said he's a stingy man. Right now, we need a leader that is stingy to save money, to get us out of this mess, and let Nigeria run. Right now, as I speak, you know how much the price of chicken and rice was in Christmas. Everybody bought rice and chicken.
But don't you think those prices just skyrocketed because of the Christmas season?
Not at all. What goes up in Nigeria never comes down. But with the right choice of presidential candidates, we tend to get things balanced, and we tend to get a lot of things drop. In December, inflation, in November, I think we hit 7-year time high. Inflation rate was over 20%, and it's still over 20%. And nothing is working, as I said. The petroleum industry is not working. We're talking about the transportation. It's even more expensive for you to travel by road than to fly. Because if your enemies kidnaps you, you pay ransom, and you are not even sure of if the person that they kidnap is going to come out of there alive. So now we're talking about a presidential candidate that has a manifesto that is not copy and paste. Every other candidate you can see for yourself, even when they're on the podium in their rallies, a lot of them cannot even stand erect for long. A lot of them are not even based in the country. They are based in either Dubai or abroad. And we have a president that he does rallies, that when he came to Edo State, the first time in history, a president that went to the 3 senatorial districts of Edo State. So he has the vigor, he has the might, and he has the intellectual capacity to run the country and deliver for the people of Nigeria. And I think as he came on board...
Indirectly now, you're just mentioning names. I say without mentioning names.
No, I didn't say his name. I didn't say his name.
Okay.
But everybody knows who we are talking about.
Okay.
Nigerians are tired. Nigeria wants an actual change. You see, you talked about the current administration and the candidates that he is not supporting his predecessor. Yes, this is because majority of our leaders now are selfish. They go in there as if it's their birthright. Nigeria is not a limited liability company. Nigeria is a company filled with people, intellectual people. We are talking about down to the farmers, even if they are not elitist. We are talking about people that earn a honest living. I think when I was younger, Nigeria was better than the way it is now. And for the fact that the current president is not in agreement with the predecessor, I think they are just being selfish, because either one of them wants things to run in their favor. They are not looking out for the people of the country and the electorates.
All right, let's come back now to Comrade Obidi. In the past, it takes within 30 minutes, 45 minutes to drive down from, let's say, Poma to Benin City. But these days, you need to spend longer time traveling down from there. I mean, somebody was supposed to join us on this show this morning, but he couldn't travel down due to the road and some fears of the unknown. Now, Fashola, the Minister of Housing, says they've done well in terms of infrastructure. Do you agree with that?
Well, you see, it is against the principle of life for you to be a judge in your own case. The fact is that the scorecard of every leader or leadership at both the national and sub-national level should be left in the hands of those that they are serving. Because if I ask you to serve me, I should be able to tell you that you have served me well or you've not served me. So that the Minister of Roads, or sorry, the Minister of Works is saying we have done well. It is not for him actually to say that. It is for Nigerians to judge. And the question you just asked me, as it directly concerns me, I can't remember when last I traveled through Benin through Ekpoma because of the bad state of road. And that is one of the federal routes that we have in Edo State, linking Edo State and the Kogi Axis down to Abuja. That road has been lying down for how many years? Even since the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. It will not take more than 8 months to dualize Benin down to Auchi, Okene, where we have the will, the political will, where we have the sincerity of government. Because it baffles me sometimes when I see politicians, they play politics with the lives of Nigerians, they play politics with the welfare of the people that they are leading. If Edo State is not a ruling, it's not what's it called now? It's not the party in power in Edo State, it's not the ruling power at the center. Does it mean Edo State citizen will be starved with the dividend of democracy that the federal government is supposed to provide? We have 2 ministers in these states. The Minister of Health, the Minister of Budget and Planning, even from the Edo North
States for Budget and Planning.
Even from the Edo North Axis. Does it mean he cannot influence? Even we have the former national chairman of the ruling party in this state. Does it mean he cannot influence the decision of fast track the award of the project of the dualization of Benin Auchi Road, where Nigerians and those state people are suffering, they are wailing, sometimes they have to sleep on the road. We have had cause to engage authority and sometimes during the year. And we are trying to push the state government. If the federal government cannot do this, why not engage into this project? And we are made to understand that this current administration has made a policy that they will no longer be refunding funds that state government
spend out of the state
coffer in federal projects, that they will no longer be refunding it. And you see, that makes it very difficult or reluctant for any other subnational government to engage in federal government projects. So where are the money? We just had recently that 72 billion has been released or will be released for this project. Okay. These are becoming political statements.
Okay.
Because election is coming.
Right, I'll come back to you now. We'll quickly take a short break right now. And we'll continue on the show. Don't go nowhere.
TMI. Every opinion counts.
We're also on the Ultimate News and Current Affairs program. Before we went on that short break, we're actually looking at some of the front issues that are actually of interest nationally and, of course, to us as a nation, as we prepare to jump into the pools next year. Now, let me come back to Engineer Esosa Iyawe. Now, the fuel issue is a global stuff. There has been this unending war in Russia and Ukraine. And to an extent, that has affected fuel and gas supply in some part of Europe. So what do you think should be the way out? Even as a nation, we're actually having long queues now in our first nation, no doubt. But it seems to be a national or an issue that is affecting everyone globally.
Yes. You know, I said our politicians and our leaders are selfish. We have refineries that in the Abacha regime had picked up, but even as we speak...
So since it's a global issue now at this point, what should be the way out?
Yes, that's a global issue. We need to get our refineries working, and even we are supposed to profit from this Russia-Ukraine situation.
Okay.
We are supposed to be profiting more. The price of crude oil has increased. The gas flaring, I think the strategy of Russia in the war is about cutting off gas to Europe. We would have run a pipe from Africa, Nigeria to Europe. I think that was ongoing. The sea pipeline for the gas, the liquefied natural gas. That has been on board for years and decades. That, if it was in place, Nigeria has one of the best crude oils in the world. We are supposed to profit from that, and at the same time refine our own crude products. Subsidy wouldn't have been an issue if we had good leaders that had set up these refineries and made it run. You know, crude oil, you don't only get fuel and diesel out of crude oil. A lot of people think it's just only 3 components: fuel, diesel, and DPK, kerosene. Crude oil, you can get a lot of things from it: engine oil products, Vaseline products, you know. But Nigeria, the policies that they have with the subsidy cabals doesn't really enable them enhance the full potential of that crude oil that we have. So the first situation is a laughable situation. It's like saying in Saudi Arabia they have fuel scarcity. If we have people in place, good establishments, good policies in place, good infrastructures, the refinery should work. Even the Dangote refinery that is even on the way that they've spent billions of naira for, if that is kicking, and I think it's even being politicized, it's not running now, it's supposed to be running, we would have not even had the issue of fuel scarcity.
Okay. All right, let's now start wrapping up, Comrade Ogidi.
Yes.
The Naira redesign. Let's look at that. The Senate recently said, and you want to react to what he said. All right, let's take your reaction. Go ahead.
No, okay.
Go ahead.
No, just to add to what he has said, you see, even a lot of people are quick to blame some of the woes we see in this country to global economic murder and what is happening in the global scene.
But it's glaring that it's a global challenge.
Now, what is a global challenge can be an advantage to your local system.
Okay.
If you have leaders that are proactive and that are idea driven.
Okay.
Ordinarily, Nigeria still remains the only OPEC country that will lift his crude raw materials out of the shores of this country, refine it, and bring back paid dollars to bring back refined products into this country. In this crisis of the Russian-Ukraine, right now, Nigeria is supposed to be making much more money, while Nigerians will be swimming in wealth and good standard of living as a result of that crisis.
Okay.
Having cut off gas and energy from the Europe, Nigeria is supposed to be exporting refined products to other countries, even down to Europe, where you have scarcity or short supply, as it were. But because we have leaders who are very comfortable in tying themselves and tying this country to the apron string of the leadership of the West and the Europe, they have decided to depend on the aids and foreign aids that are coming from them in order to keep us in perpetual poverty, not thinking of how we ourselves can become self-dependent, reliable, and even strong enough.
But there are plans to give...
not after 60-something years. That is failure. Not after 60-something years. So we are talking about leadership that will be looking inward on how Nigeria can be the giants that they truly are. If we have a responsible government that runs with ideas and the political will, why will it take how many years for our refineries to work? It does not. The president, as it were today, is currently the Minister of Petroleum, and yet we have refineries that are not working.
Okay.
So we cannot continue to play politics with the lives of Nigerians.
But recently, NNPC has been turned into a public limited company.
Yeah. Now that is not the problem.
Okay.
The truth is that they have cabals that have stood to say NNPC will not work so long they are still enjoying the importations of refined products. There are people who will continue to sabotage the turnaround maintenance of NNPC that have been awarded and re-awarded over time.
Okay, from this your reaction now, let me just go back to Engineer Here as we begin to call it a wrapper on the show. Now, the CBN governor said there's no going back as far as the introduction of the new Naira note to replace the old one is concerned. But the Senate are saying, no, let's extend this date. Do you think the date should be extended?
No, I think the date should remain 31st next week, the Tuesday next week, 31st of January.
Why?
Because a lot of selfish leaders, in quotes, they have these old Naira notes buried in their GP tanks or buried on the underground tanks or stocked and stacked in their houses. So now, as my brothers here said, that they printed a lot of Naira to satisfy their selfish interest. There are a lot of Nairas in circulation, but it's not coming back to the bank. So with this strategy, which I highly commend CBN for, now you have a deadline to bring these old notes into the bank. You see, they didn't even say 50 Naira or 20 Naira, because that's the poor man's currency. They hounded on the 200 Naira upwards. Now, this
so 50 Naira, 20 Naira is poor man's currency.
Yeah, no, as in an average man, a rich man, all the selfish. I don't even think they even know how the
50
Naira,
20
Naira
looks
looks like.
It's true.
You know, I'm talking about 200 Naira and above, because those are the notes, the currencies they hold.
Okay.
So now with these new notes, they are now forced to send the old notes back to the bank.
Okay.
And sending it back to the bank would really imbibe that paper trail.
Okay.
We'll know who is stealing money, and who is not stealing money.
All right.
And again, it curbs vote buying, which is a problem in this country today. They use poverty as a weapon to the people, and once they bring out peanuts and say, "Give me your votes," people jump on it. Right. So this election is going to be the actual change that Nigeria is clamoring for, and if we get it wrong in February, we have another 8 years of decay. Okay. And then it's going to be dog eat dog. Okay. So please, I would have to say, use this medium to say, get it right.
It's okay.
And let's
all right,
thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid this is how far time permits us on this segment. Yeah. We'll be joining Dr. Tony Agbons all the way from United Kingdom on the second segment via Zoom. Please don't go nowhere.